I'm John Sicotte, executive editor of the Brewer magazine. Welcome to another edition of the Brewer magazine podcast. And well, it is September, and that means, of course, fall time. We got some football lined up, Oktoberfest and pumpkin beers if you're a brewery, and something new to celebrate all month, especially if you're a brewery owner. It's malt. That's right. The Craft Maltsters Guild has recently announced the expansion of its annual Craft Malt Week into an inaugural Craft Malt Month, and it's going on all this month in September. This has given a unique opportunity for the entire malt supply chain to be able to celebrate malt. We're talking growers to maltsters to brewers like you. Everyone's going to be able to come together, showcase their talents, their beers, highlight that craftsmanship that goes into the production of malt. And well, we welcome in a couple people that know a little bit about malt. It's Nicole Cendrowski of Fireforge Crafted Beer in Greenville, South Carolina, along with Brent Manning of Riverbend Malting in Asheville, North Carolina. Well, guys, welcome. Thanks for joining us here on the Brewer Magazine podcast.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, John.
Awesome. Well, let's get some introductions in the way. Nicole, tell us a little bit about how things are going with Fireforge and what's going on in Greenville and with you guys.
Yeah, so I'm co-owner at Fireforge Crafted Beer. We've got a 7-barrel brewery and tap room and kitchen and beer garden right in downtown. And we're enjoying fall. All the fall beers are coming out. Pumpkin ale's out. Oktoberfest is out. And we're gearing up for our big Oktoberfest weekend coming up last weekend of September. So this is a really exciting time of year for us with some of our favorite beers and some of our favorite events.
Awesome. And just a little bit up the road in Asheville, Brent at Riverbend Malting. We've had some discussions before. Glad to have you on the podcast and, tell those who are watching or listening, exactly what Riverbend's all about.
Yeah, appreciate it. I'm one of the founders and currently serving as vice president of sales and marketing. Riverbend's been making craft malt with small grains grown in the Southeast since 2010. And we've grown from a little 2,000 square foot entity to over the last couple of years, we fully occupied about a 70,000 square foot facility here in South Asheville and currently serve about 300 accounts throughout the Southeast. So the growth has been exciting, and we just love being a part of the craft beer and craft malt community.
Well, awesome. And the cool thing is that, when I saw that we're going to do a Craft Malt Month instead of Craft Malt Week, that means things are going along well, and a lot of breweries are getting involved. Nicole, what inspired your brewery to participate in Craft Malt Month this year, and and what are you guys doing, and also what is the role craft malt plays in your typical brew day?
Sure. Yeah. So the first part is that I don't think we actively participated last year, and we wanted to jump on the bandwagon, but really it started with doing a collaboration beer with our friends down the street in Brewer, South Carolina, the Southern Growl. And we did a collab with them and Riverbend, and we made a really sexy beer style called a Roggen beer that we're very, very excited to have very soon on tap, both at their tap room in Greer and then at our place in Greenville. So that's how we got involved this year. And also with Oktoberfest coming up, a lot of we'll have at least a half dozen of different German style beers available that are showcasing, a ton of Riverbend malt. So we brew with about 75% of the malt we use is craft malt grown in the Southeast. And it's always been really important to us to work as local or regional as possible and get to know your maltsters. So it's been fun as watching Riverbend grow and as Fireforge has grown, over the last 6 years we've been open, just to have the ability to purchase more and more from them as we opened the brewery on fumes. So we weren't able to purchase as much craft malt then, but now it's something that's very important to us.
Yeah, and it's neat because, again, there's a lot of things like sustainability, being able to be a little closer. You're not having things trucked in from far away. And you also get a chance to go and see the process if you need, and get to know the people that are actually on the other end of where you're getting your malt. Was that something that was, important to you guys as you started growing and, like you said, had the opportunity to be able to do more?
Yes, and this is reminding me that it's probably time to plan another field trip to bring folks from our team up there to, to go visit. We did that a couple of years ago when our team was a lot smaller. We have a pretty untraditional tap room and brewery team. A lot of times this is someone's first job and maybe just a part-time job in craft beer. And so to get hands-on, to actually help our team understand where our ingredients come from and make it real and tangible, not just, oh, beer comes from the tap that I'm pouring. That's been extremely meaningful to make the brewing, not only the brewing process, but where we get our ingredients from, make it feel even more real. And then there are people behind that and other businesses that we support. It's been critical.
And Brent, the importance of craft malt, obviously very important to you guys.
Sure.
What else has Riverbend been able to do gearing up for Craft Malt Month? And I'm sure that you've been a busy boy. Things are getting lined up. What are some of the great things that you guys are looking forward to this month?
Yeah, no, it's great. I am actually one of the founders of the Craft Malt Guild and helped launch the original Craft Malt Day to see this kind of continue to balloon in scale and interest is super gratifying. But a lot of what we attempt to do is a lot of what Nicole just touched on is what can we do to sort of cross over into that tap room production space, educate everybody involved, because it's great that the owners and maybe even the head brewer are dialed in on craft malt, but we got to get that education plugged in all the way to the front of the house. And so I'll do kind of a Meet the Maltster event. We did one at Print Shop Beer Company in Knoxville a couple of weeks back, and just any type of sort of outreach where we can connect people to the process, the ingredients, where the farms are. I mean, to put things in perspective, the closest major malt house to where we're all standing here in Western North Carolina and upstate South Carolina is Breese in Chilton, Wisconsin, and they buy their barley from Wyoming. So we've got about a 2,000-mile trip at best. Now, if you're very traditional brewer and you do your German styles for Oktoberfest with someone from overseas, now we're talking about 2 and 3x that distance of travel. So just some simple little sound bites like that can really sort of turn that light bulb on for people. And so we really try to focus on that messaging. We've got a bunch of fun collabs. The Roggen beer is just one cool example where we get to highlight these are rare, sometimes heirloom varieties of grain that we're bringing in. You can't get them anywhere else. And, what a better way to highlight all the different ryes we offer than a Roggen beer. So really excited to see this one hit the tap wall.
Awesome. Well, and kind of you got into that is educating people in the industry outside of maybe an owner that's ordering or a brewer that's ordering, getting to that front of house. On both ends of it, what is Riverbend doing? And Nicole, maybe you want to answer as well about, what your staff is learning. Like you said, go take a field day, things like that to them. So whoever, Brent, if you want to answer first, just like the importance of educating professionals in the industry, because I do think that's one of the things that don't get touched on right away. Where I'm going to open a brewery, well, I want to go learn about, the malting process. It doesn't happen right away.
Right, or I'm going to Yakima for hop selection. Nobody ever says I'm going to Idaho for barley selection. So we've got some a lot of educational opportunities there. And with COVID, we lost a lot of great front of house people that we kind of educated on the first wave of craft malt, and so we're kind of building that educational base up again. It can be as simple as a quick PowerPoint presentation where we just show where the growers are, how the malt changes from raw barley. It goes through steeping, germinating, and kilning over a 7-day process. Just some basic building blocks like that can get folks really excited and connecting the dots between a particular farm, a particular malt, and the lager that they're about to pour for that customer. They bring in that full connecting those dots, I think, is just really helpful to moving pints.
Yeah. And Nicole, I'm sure that, the things that you've learned probably as being an owner, you've probably learned a lot about the malt that being able to work with someone like Brent.
Yeah, absolutely. A few of the things that we'll do with, with our bar team, because, being a relatively small, brewery, we've got my co-owner Brian Cendrowski, who's our head brewer, but then we've got one kind of apprentice brewer there. It's 1.5 people can run our brew house, yet we've got almost 30 people that
Wow.
work, our bar, kitchen, events and marketing. And so there are a lot of folks to educate that aren't really that hands-on, with the barley. And so one of the things we do is anytime we are releasing a new beer, and that's usually about once or twice a week, we've got 20 beers on tap at any given time. We put together tasting notes, and we always include that we share with everybody. And we also have an app called Draft Lab, where we do quality tasting and testing with everybody. But then we always include, what is the regional malts used in, and specialty malts used in, each of those beers. And so we've got, a range of things that we're sharing with folks, but then also we're very active on our social media platforms. And so anytime we're posting about a new beer and writing that description, we're including highlights of, flavor profiles, and then also ingredients when applicable.
And Brent, when it comes to why it should matter to consumers, at the people that are drinking the beer, why should their education and their knowledge of the craft malt be an important part of being a consumer?
I always think of the classic, we have a Appalachian Sustainable Agriculture program up here. It's our local farm activist group, and their bumper sticker just says thousands of miles fresher. And so I always sort of think about that quick little soundbite is like, this is step one. The next piece is like, let me show you that, just like in the wine industry, you've got all these different regional and sometimes even, metropolitan sized areas that create different flavors. And, craft malt has a lot of those same threads woven through it. We've got people across the nation now, about 70 malt houses, doing what they do with their own type of equipment, sometimes regionally adapted barley varieties. And so everyone is putting their own sort of spin on that, just like a winemaker would. And so it's sort of decommoditizing the key ingredient that goes into beer. I have this analogy, where, think about like a rock band where the hops are, the shirtless lead singer out front, but, and the malt is your rhythm section. They're playing bass and drums, and, Led Zeppelin would be nothing without their rhythm section. So, Robert Plant and Jimmy Page are great, but you need the other two guys to help out to round the sound out and make it really pop. And so
Mhm.
that's kind of where I see things. And what I always try to impress upon people is that the freshness and the craftsmanship is really creates the soul of beer that we say malt is.
Absolutely. And this is kind of, for both you, Nicole, and Brent, like, are there events or tours or different types of tastings that any brewery should be looking for? I mean, obviously it's already Craft Malt Month. Maybe it's not time you can probably get something in at the end of the month if you're seeing this now, or plan at least for 2025. What are some impactful things that breweries can do to start educating themselves and educating the public at the same time?
So yeah, first off, we've got Craft Malt Month is a website now. So we've got a whole host of events going on across the nation. So this is going to be beer releases, malt house tours, all sorts of interesting stuff is going to be happening across the nation there. That'll include our series of collaboration beer releases that are just starting to hit the tap walls now across the Southeast. So there should be, I think we've got at least half a dozen collab projects going on for this month. So there should be some pretty fun stuff across most major metropolitan areas in the South.
John, I appreciate your question. This is in typical Fireforge fashion. We've got a lot of different events and different things going on, but then while it's happening, like, oh, we're already in Craft Malt Month. Hey, guess what we can do next year? So you get a lot of ideas, like, oh, I should have done that. So I think, for us, we're definitely kind of lagging, and we'll just like roll right into, we'll announce when we've got the Roggen beer, on draft. We'll go hang out at Southern Growl. We'll encourage folks we're doing it for us, I think, in a lot of ways, and it's a fun change of pace out of the ordinary day to day. And then also, we found that one thing that works really well for us, and maybe it's our location, with where we are, we have a lot of tourism growing, a lot of weekend warrior travelers coming from bigger metropolitan areas that are coming to Greenville. So, I'd say a small percentage of our customer base are actually kind of beer geeky, or would want to really dive into where everything's coming from. It's important to us, and we want to bring that information forward. But we found through more cultural events that are more accessible to all people, we can still showcase high quality beer, tout where our ingredients from, and more softly educate in that way. But I've got some ideas for next year. Maybe we can up our game.
Awesome.
Well, what I always like too is, it's like you kind of get, if you have that, audience and your front of the house bartender is like, hey, this beer's got X, Y, and Z ingredients in it, then then that little soundbite sticks in their head. Then they go to the next brewery to sample through their stuff. And the hope is that either A, they're asking, well, what malt do you use in your beer? And if
Yeah,
not,
that'd be
if not
amazing.
that question, they're asking, at least, they're at least, that seed, pardon the pun, has been planted, and now they're it's part of their sort of analysis of where they're spending their beer dollar, and that's really our hope, is that, whether it's through the Craft Malt Certified, which Fireforge is a member of that program as well. Whatever we can do to help the consumer get more educated, and the brewery that's supporting craft malt and local agriculture to stand out in this crowd. We're close to 10,000 breweries in the nation, so we kind of need some differentiators to help people stand out, and we hope that Craft Malt, speaking to those ingredients on whether it be the chalkboard in the tap room or the label design in the can, that folks are getting some value out of that sort of loud and proud statement.
Another thing that's we found is pretty important to our customers is that to know that we are working with local and regional businesses. So we're helping bolster the economy, in our region by keeping things, close. It's the same reason why customers, they're excited to meet who's brewing. They're excited to meet who's developing our food menu, and who's our chef. And then if we can make the ingredients and where everything's coming from a little more tangible to them, then that is important.
Yeah. And for me, myself, I'm, along with the magazine, I was the president of the local homebrew club here in Northwest Ohio in Toledo. And that was one of the first things that we did, was when a malt house opened up in the area, Heartland Malting in Bascom, Neil and Mark Hoover, started making connections with them. It was a little bit of a drive for us to go as a club, and it's like herding cats when you try to get a bunch of homebrewers together. But you know what, we got there. You get to see the process and see it, like, it's grown over there, it's malted right here. You can pick up a bag and bring it home and go brew with it right that day if you wanted to. And they brought in a few breweries that had made beers, had a chance to be able to try those beers from the breweries I think within 20 minutes of the malt house, to be able to have that beer, see it that way. And it's with a consumer base that was engaged,
Absolutely.
Stuff, and you can do that. So just, that's another thought process for anyone that's listening, that, there's always check in with your home brewers, because they're the ones that might have a little bit more interest in that, having that knowledge too, and a pretty captive audience. So that was just, one of the things that really got me into craft malt, was, along with this job, is being a home brewer and getting a chance to just be at the field and see how things are going. But more importantly, looking forward, Craft Malt Month is now, but you can obviously work your way in the future for this. What's new in craft malt? I know, Brent, you guys said that you've been working on some stuff, and how's this going to help with what brewing can be in the craft industry going forward?
Yeah, so always this time of the year is always exciting for us because we grow winter grains in the South. So meaning we plant in October, harvest in June, whereas most of the barley for malting in the U.S. is grown in the more traditional summer months. So we're now in the crunch period where we're assessing quality parameters for the barley that was harvested earlier this summer, and simultaneously breaking out our crystal ball to determine how many acres of different varieties we need to have planted just in a few weeks. So we'll be planting barley in mid-October throughout the South. So one of the things we're excited about is new variety from Virginia Tech called Avalon. 2024 marks really the first significant commercial harvest of this variety. We've had a truckload or two to play with the last 2 years. So Avalon's going to join the Riverbend, sort of year-round family here in the next couple of months. So we're very excited about that. Overall, we had a solid harvest, so we should have plenty of locally sourced grain for the next 12 months. I mentioned the honey malt project that we're R&Ding as we speak. So that's been a customer request and something that we've been a bit terrified to start because it involves what they call an anoxic or a free of oxygen period where the grain is still technically germinating, but it made us very nervous because that's the complete opposite of how you typically germinate barley, which is with boatloads of fresh air and cool air coming in. And so we're excited to see what that does to the flavor profile of the finished malt. But yeah, a lot of things like that. We blessedly, a couple of years ago when all the supply chain issues were happening, a lot of brewers finally kind of said, well, I guess I'm going to have to brew my Oktoberfest with local malt because I can't get this stuff from Germany. And pleasantly, most people were very excited about the results of working with our Munich family and our other base malts. And so that's probably been one of the most gratifying things in the recent couple of years is to see the last bastion of beer being the German lager for Oktoberfest get to be made with local ingredients from the Carolinas. That was pretty awesome.
Very neat. How does that excite you, Nicole? Like, being able to kind of start playing with some new stuff eventually?
Yeah, actually, when you asked about what do you feel are the trends, and I thought, man, this is a tough question, but I'd be interested in Brent what you think about this. But one thing that Brian and I, our head brewer, we had noticed over the last several years were the smaller regional malt houses that we work with were dipping their toe into more specialty grains that we typically would have ordered from much larger malt houses, perhaps in other country or things coming from other countries. And we thought, well, let's give this double kilned Munich a try. We did that in our Baltic porter called the Fixer. And we've been playing around with more opportunities to switch out our specialty malts with something that was grown regionally. We didn't see that coming. I mean, you guys obviously wanted to throw it out there, and we're buying it, and that's pretty cool. I think one of our approaches to beer, and Brian and I started as home brewers as well, where we'd be like, let's get 12 different specialty grains to put into this thing. And we learned over time, maybe we can dial back the variety and just go and let's just dial in some classic approaches. And so, we always want to respect, doing a Bohemian style Pilsner with, hops from from the Czech Republic or
Sure.
things like that. But as these more opportunities come available, going back to specialty malt, we're like, why not? Let's just try it and still pay respect not only to the unique terroir of our region, but also respect to that classic style as well.
Yeah, no, we appreciate it because it is a bit of a two-way street. I mean, sometimes we we try to throw something out there and we're like, well, I taste this and I think it could be used like this, but the SRM is like a little darker than your traditional dark Munich recipe, and it's not quite here. But stay with me, like it's a unique flavor profile. I can recruit, and we made the move a couple of years ago. We said no more snowflakes. We're not releasing anything that we can't do twice. And so that, I think that helped instill a little bit more confidence in our customers to like, all right, well, Riverbend wouldn't have put this in my hands if they can't do it again and replicate it. So I feel comfortable that I can make this beer more than once. So it's that kind of two-way street that we were thankful for. We got a little bit more confident in our equipment and our experience as well. It was
That's awesome.
it was the other leap of faith. We made a crystal malt in a methodology and in a temperature range with it. When you look at every malting textbook on the planet, they will tell you that what we are doing will not get you anywhere in the ballpark of a crystal malt. And so there's some sort of like, well, yes, I read the textbook, but I also have this data point over here that's pointing me in this direction. So I'm going to walk in that direction and see what happens. And so it's been fun. We love getting the feedback from our customers of like you said, just we're making a Baltic porter. Up until very recently, that style was off the table when it came to discussing, well, what can I do that's a high percentage of Riverbend. Trend wise, I'd say kudos to brewers for just demanding that the public drink more lager over the last 5 years, and I think the public has finally heard you. And
Yeah.
this summer was the summer of Mexican lager. I think we had close to 24 breweries across the Southeast do a 100% Riverbend Mexican lager. We're known for our malted corn, so that was kind of a fun thing to see develop. We made a blog post of like, hey, isn't this cool? And then the immediate impact was, I got one too, Brent. And I was like, wow, this is really exciting. Keep updating. So that was a real fun one this year. And then I'm not sure what's next, honestly. I mean, I feel like cold IPA is trying to claw back into like the West Coast Pills cold IPA, like that we still have to have our hops, obviously, like, so that I'm okay with that. But if we can have hops and lager together, then we both win. So
I'm with you, Brent, on that. The biggest beer style categories, if you walk into our tap room, you see how everything's organized. We sell a lot of lagers
Yep.
and a lot of IPAs, and then we fill it in with a whole variety of different things. But our La Patrona, our Mexican lager, always does really well in the late spring, early summer. We use Riverbend's Bloody Butcher corn, which also is a very badass name. I just love saying it.
Yeah.
And also, though, I think cold IPA, about a year ago, we started having a cold IPA on at any given time. I just love that style, or a hoppy pilsner. I think, like you said, it's that mixture of that crisp lager finish while still celebrating hops. And so there is a beer we'll have very soon, probably beginning of October. It's going to be fresh hopped with crystal hops from Crosby Hop Farms. So that'll be overnighted to us. And it's going to be like a hoppy pilsner. But then also with cold IPAs, we're using a lot of Riverbend based malt with those as well.
Nice.
Well, sounds super exciting. And again, at Craft Malt Month,
I'm getting thirsty.
it is so cool. And being able to celebrate, a craft malt in this way, I'm glad that the Maltsters Guild is doing this, and hopefully this excites people, gets them to, if it's not, right now, it can be start planning for next year and just go talk to your local maltster. There's someone probably within 100, 200 miles of you that could be helping you in your brewery all over the country. So Brent, Nicole, appreciate you guys, sharing your thoughts and, just helping invigorate what you can be doing as a brewery with craft malt.
Yeah, appreciate y'all.
Thank you, guys.
Don't forget, you can always check on brewermag.com. You can also see us on YouTube and listen to us on Spotify. And don't forget daily updates on Facebook, Instagram, and X. I'm Executive Editor John Sicotte for brewermagazine.com.